assume it's automatic.
Okay, there we go. Now we are live.
We're live.
Hello, everybody.
It doesn't show we're live on YouTube.
No, it's a show live on YouTube.
Oh, there
It
it goes.
doesn't
No,
let
it
me
does.
hear.
Oh no,
don't
it does.
know.
It does. It's just a bit
Oh,
slow.
Okay. I was scared. I got scared. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel.
Yeah.
So we are here, FAES and GAYS, to discuss Cinderella is Dead. Everyone has the other copy.
Yeah.
I have that one too, but I'm gonna do a giveaway on Twitter.
Oh,
Yeah. How do you have the UK copy, Trey? How's that happened?
I don't even know how I got this.
You can get it on Book Depository.
It literally just showed up at my house, and I was like, "Did I buy this? I can't remember."
Showed up on your house. That's not creepy. That's awesome. So do we want to go through and we should talk about the giveaway first before we forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably worth
sure.
mentioning.
Yeah, so we have the giveaway. It's going to be in the description. And so if you read the book, you can answer the giveaway question. We made it so it's not like extremely hard, but it's good enough to if you read the book, you'll be able to answer the giveaway question. And at the end of the live stream, we'll announce who won, and we'll send you either any of the book club pick books or any queer book you would like from, and we can figure out if you want to do Book Depository or Amazon, whatever works best for y'all. So perfect. I hope I explained that right.
Yeah.
I was just going, I was like, let's hope this is good.
Yeah, basically, it's in the description, so enter now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also
Right.
perfect.
Shall we go through rough, vague thoughts? Because we've got a whole variety
Sure.
of opinions today.
Yes. Who wants to start?
You start. It's your channel. Unless you want to go last.
I'm always like, who wants to go first? So I originally gave it, when I read it in July, 5 stars, and I'm still deciding if it deserves that. I'm leaning between a 4 and a 5, that in between, that 4, because I think it could be maybe a 9 out of 10. I don't know. I'm ranting now. I liked it. I don't know if I love it. That's it.
Okay. I'm at the opposite end of the scale. I gave it a 2.5, and I'm still debating putting it down to a 2. I was not the biggest fan. I have thoughts. Yeah. We'll get into it, I'm sure.
All right. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was good. I just didn't think it was anything special. But I also do have a lot of thoughts and pros about the book to talk about. But also I've never seen the movie Cinderella, and I'm not super familiar with the fairy tale, so I wonder if that hindered it a little bit. But besides that, I liked it. It was good. It was really easy to read too. It got me out of my slump that's been 3 months. I read this in 2 days.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, 3 stars.
I gave it 4, I think, but I think it could go to 3.5. But I just end up on 4. I did really like it, but I can see why people wouldn't like it really clearly. But for me, I could kind of just ignore that and just enjoy myself. So yeah, but I have a list of things to talk about, the things I didn't like and the things I really liked. So we will talk about it now, soon.
Oh yeah. I am curious for you guys to know is if you have Trey just said that he hasn't seen Cinderella or doesn't know the Cinderella story. Do you guys do? Because I'm curious to see how you feel about the Cinderella tale or the Cinderella movie, and how if that affected your enjoyment of the story.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the Disney film and the live action version, but I don't know it particularly well. But I know the story, the general plot line of the fairy tale perfectly well. And yeah.
Yeah, same. I watched the Disney version a billion times. I was a big fan of Disney when I was a kid, and then the new live action. But I also read or I listened to audiobook. Maybe I was a kid for the fairy tales, the original ones, when she has blood in her shoes and everything. And I don't know if you know this, but there is this tradition every year in Norway where they stream on Christmas Eve this movie called 3 Wishes for Cinderella, and it's this I don't even know, Ukrainian movie, and it's like dubbed with this dude talking, and everyone in Norway watches this every Christmas. It's not even a Christmas movie, it's like a Cinderella movie. And that's why I watch that every single year for years. So like it's like one version of the story. So like I'm used to like at least watching a version of it like every year. So I like feel like I'm very familiar with the whole thing. So yeah.
It's interesting because I hate the Cinderella tale, like the movie and the fairy tale, because I had to analyze it for a class, and I just don't. I've always hated the movie since I was a kid, so I was like, I actually like this. What a concept!
Yeah, no, I was never one of my favorite Disney films. I literally saw it like a couple times as a kid versus things like Mulan and all of those, which I watched God knows how many times and still do. Cinderella was never one of the ones that particularly appealed.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so what did you guys? We know what you guys.
Should we? Do you want to give like a short summary of what the book is about?
Yeah, good idea.
It's like someone doesn't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Good idea. So pretty much we follow our main character. Why do I already forget her name?
Sophia.
Sophia.
On the back.
So we follow our main character Sophia, and it's pretty much like in this society where it's very oppressive towards women. Like women can't go outside at night by themselves. They can't really work or do anything. And there is the traditional ceremony at the castle where it happens about every year, and pretty much women are forced to go, but men, it's like you can if you want to, and you pretty much like find your husband there. And Sophia, she likes girls. She very much says like, I don't like men like that, and she really doesn't want to go, but of course she's forced to, like through the society, and she kind of breaks out, falls in love, and takes down the patriarchy.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's pretty much the plot.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm curious to think of like, what did you guys think of the world?
Like the world building?
Yeah, like the world building.
The world was interesting. It was in no way explained. It just
definitely not.
Was. And then like halfway through you get this like 20-page section of explaining it all in one go. And I don't know, I feel like it was not built up as well as it could have been, in my opinion. It was a really cool concept. I loved the concept. But as soon as you were done with the ball, I was then like, we've done the concept. I felt like it was lacking quite a lot in terms of world building.
Oh yeah.
I think it was decent in world building. I think the whole, like, one of my big issues with the book is I feel like the book was like 100 pages too short, especially because like normally YA fantasies, if they're standalones, they're normally like 400 to 500 pages, which this one is like 380. But I still feel if it was like 450 or like 500, it could have fixed a bunch of the issues that I had with it. But I think the world building was pretty good. I wish we got to see more like examples of the world building, because it was kind of just like, I mean, we had some examples of like how the society was oppressive, but mostly it was just like showing and not telling.
Yeah, no, I think one of my problems was you could understand like how the world functioned, but it was more until so far through the book there was absolutely no logic of how it had got from this Cinderella fairy tale to the most possible oppressive patriarchy that could exist.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not seeing the relation to Cinderella in any way for most of this.
Yeah. I mean, at least, oh, sorry, Sandra, you can go.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I liked the world building, like how it all worked, but like it kind of had like plot holes for me in a way. Like I had more issues with the plot than like the world building, but because the plot had a bit holes for me, the world kind of doesn't work. Because let's say like all the men, they don't need to choose people every year, but they choose when they want to, and then they're all forced to go, and if you're not chosen, then you're like shunned upon. But like if the man doesn't want to choose, how is that your fault? I didn't like get how like, you know, like how that worked then, since they didn't have to choose, they could just go to look at them. But then if you were not chosen, then I don't know, if you're not chosen 3 times, you basically have to become a slave or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but that's not logical at all, but okay. So yeah, but I liked this. I liked how they worked, but like of course I didn't like it because I wouldn't want to be there, but you got the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like casually explained what happens to the girls like after the 3rd time. And then obviously there's like the plot of what's happening to like most of the girls through the castle. but like the actual girls that got like shipped away after their third time, it didn't ever really explain like where they went or like what happened to them. It was just like they're gone.
I thought it said that they became
They said
like
they go to like
servants, so
neighboring
workers.
cities.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were.
But
They
then it
showed
was-
up at the end of the book when the
Spoilers. Are we doing spoilers yet? If
Oh,
so,
yeah,
we
no,
should
no.
probably
No,
say-
no, no. But not all of them showed up. I think.
You saw what happened to them at the end of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
at the
the world
beginning it
building
said
in
they
this
went to
was as
workhouses.
Hmm?
I was saying at the beginning it said they went to like workhouses and stuff, but
Yeah, that's what it
that's kind
said.
of part of the threat is that you didn't really know what was going to happen if you weren't
Yeah,
chosen.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because they kind of disappeared because they just were sent off to work somewhere, and then they were like, "What?" Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think the world building was as explained as like every other YA fantasy I've read. At least
Yeah, I agree.
YA fantasy's world building isn't explained, at least not well, in my opinion. So I think when you compare it to other YA fantasy, it was explained just like as similarly. So I liked it for that, and I liked the concept of the world
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, same.
I liked the concept.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting.
I liked the concept too, and I liked how, like, the themes in general of like breaking out of I don't know, oppression and like not having anyone own you, and finding yourself and being brave to like speak up against the shit in the world. And I liked all that a lot. Like those themes were really thoroughly explored, I guess is the word. Yeah, or maybe not, according to Maddie's face. Yeah, but like I liked. Yeah,
I
Yeah,
agree. I liked all the themes. I disagree with them being thoroughly explained and explored, though. That was my biggest frustration. Is I felt like a lot of things stopped at a very surface level, and I think partially, which is difficult of the way it was chosen to be written, it was because it was in first person. I feel like that hindered a lot of it because you're seeing one very narrow perspective of everything that's going on, and when you're trying to deal with these huge encompassing things and there's no external opinion, I found that there was a lot of like things that could have been discussed that weren't, which was frustrating. But that's what you get for writing in first person. Yeah.
I think if this book was like Six of Crows and it had like multiple perspectives and it was like multiple people trying to team up to like take down the king, it would have been a lot more interesting for me personally. But yeah, I don't even really like Sophia as a main character. I found her a little bit annoying. So reading only from her perspective was kind of tiring, I guess, for me.
Yeah. It's funny enough because I feel like Cinderella. I feel like Sophia is literally me. I don't know why, but
I just found Cecilia annoying.
Trey just called you annoying.
I feel like I tell everybody like this character's mean. Everyone's like, "Well, she's annoying," and I'm like, "Well, okay." No, but at least she was definitely me when I was 16. She's very naive, and in that society, you can understand why she's naive. She hasn't really been told anything, and she's finding it out through this lens. And everything she's known has been like everything is a lie, and she has to relearn everything. And you can see her like struggling with that a lot, and trying to hold on to little aspects of her old life, but she realizes she can't do that anymore. But I understand why people find her annoying.
I didn't find her particularly annoying. I think the thing I struggled with, especially towards the beginning, was her motivation. I just felt like she had genuinely good reason for wanting to overthrow everything, because obviously it's awful. But the only part you see of it is her basically saying, as you say, kind of because she's naive, it's bad, therefore change it. And I felt like there was a level of nuance to why she wanted things to change that could have been brought in a bit more, instead of just bad, therefore change. I felt like that. Yeah.
I agree. I think the reason maybe not like saying that that's what you feel, but a reason that maybe she feels a bit like maybe annoying or like one-sided is because the writing for me was very simple. So it kind of, because it was so simple, like I loved it because it was easy to read, but it felt like a bit, like you said earlier, Matt, like a bit surface level, because we don't dive deep into things, because I feel like the writing was so simple, but like it worked for the story, because as I said in the beginning, I could kind of ignore it and just have fun with it. But I wish it was more complex in the way it was written, because then we can I really can't speak today. Then we can have like dove into what's her name again? I was about to call her Cinderella. Sophie's mind more, and then maybe like what's words? What is language? Then maybe we could have like felt more on her side, and then as Maddie said, since we got one perspective, but if it was written more, I don't know, more explored like in the world, maybe it would feel not as one-sided anymore, for example.
Yeah, that's where I feel like third person could have really benefited, because it could be from her perspective, but by getting just that very slight, more sort of like omnipotent view of it, you could maybe delve into some of those things.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like if some backstory was added, it could have been a lot better too, because a lot of the times Sophie was like, my grandmother was very against the government, and she would like tell me stuff like when we went to visit her house, but it was just like casually mentioned, versus like doing like a backstory of like a little, like a couple pages of like a backstory of like her being there and actually interacting with her grandma, versus like her just telling us that that's what happened. You know.
So you're saying more showing, less telling.
Yeah.
I was going to say that was my biggest criticism throughout the book, was everything is told to you. It's never shown for you to form your own opinions. And I think that was my biggest frustration, because it may just be me. It felt almost patronizing. And the whole way through, I was like, give teenagers credit. They can understand more than this. Come on, like, just make it that bit more complex. Because I agree, the whole way through, they just told you instead of kind of letting you figure things out and think about the issues at hand.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the romance?
I think it was cute.
I think it's cute too. My note on the romance is literally romance cute. Yeah.
I thought it was way too rushed.
Yeah.
But it's always like that in YA fantasies.
Yeah,
it's not
true.
like anything new.
It is.
To me, or at least like to me, it felt like Sophia was so desperate for love, especially after being rejected from like the one girl she found interest in, that seemed like, oh wow, someone's actually interested in me, let's go into it. And I found that was very realistic, especially like, at least I was that kind of little sad teenager who was like, oh, someone's interested in me, let me just go full on straight head into it, even if it's not like the smartest way to go about it. But yeah, I think it was realistic in that way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But also, do you feel like it was a bit rushed, like typical YA, like, oh, they're spending some time together, and then you're like, oh, they're gonna bang, and then they do it. So like, it's very much like recipe YA. But like, since we read, I guess all of us read that genre so much, it maybe doesn't bother us that much. But you think about like a complex romance, you might not take this one as like the first example, but like it worked totally fine.
Yeah, I liked it more towards the end once it had a bit of time. I think what really just grated straight away, though I actually agree with what Cecilia said, and I hadn't thought of it that way, is that, you know, she's basically at the beginning, Sophia's like, oh, I want to overthrow everything for Erin, and then within 2 seconds of meeting Constance is just in love with her, and I was like, your whole motivation vanished. And now I'm sort of like, but the one, I just felt like the switch was so instantaneous that I was then like not rooting for it. It took me a while to kind of not feel awful for Erin, who was in this bad situation and had been sort of left.
But I don't think she only wanted to overthrow it for Erin. She just also overthrown it because she didn't want to get married, and she wanted the girls to have a choice to who they were going to marry and stuff.
Yeah, but I guess just because of the way she had spoken at the beginning, it seemed like, because that's how she kept saying like, oh, to be with Erin, and obviously it is a bigger picture thing, but it just seemed like too sudden a switch. Though as I just said, like what Cecilia said about, because that's just what she wanted, you kind of go out and take it, that does actually make a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, Maddie, I was funny because I felt completely the opposite towards you for what you just said, because at least what I thought is that, well, we had, I think, 2 or 3 scenes where we did actually see Sophie, like throughout the book, talk about Erin and saying like, I still love her and I still think about her, but I also like you as well. Like she, despite how dumb it was, she went in to go visit Erin because she was like, I just want to see and make sure she's okay. And towards the end of the book, you could see that she was still like, Erin, come on, like, just love me, kind of thing. So I feel like she was still there. She was still holding on by a thread, but it was just more towards the back of her mind during a lot of it. You still saw it a little bit throughout the book.
Well, like she was like in the middle of nowhere traveling. It's not like you always think about the love. You're kind of busy surviving. So it would be weird if she thought about her all the time.
That's true.
I agree with that. I agree with that, and certainly towards the end, that was very much the case. It was just, I guess, like as soon as she'd escaped, she'd literally got away from Erin about 10 seconds ago and ran into Constance, and instantly was interested in her. And I was like, it was just that moment, and then it was like, I don't know, 50, 100 pages later, she suddenly mentioned Erin again, and it just felt like for that section, they're just like forgotten that it was ever a thing. And I was sort of, so for that part, I was really struggling to like root for Constance, because I was like, yeah, it just felt like they'd kind of forgotten the previous where it come from. And then, as you say, when it came back in later, I think that made it make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like Constance was only there to like further Sophia, which was like fine, but that's why I think it would have been a lot better if it was like dual perspective, because we didn't really see anything from Constance besides like when they were together, which really wasn't that much of the book. Like it was, but it also wasn't. And it would be a lot of like, they would be at the house with the grandma, and then Erin would like go out and do stuff, and then she would come back, and then they would like be together for like a couple pages, and then she'd go out and do something else. I don't know. I just feel like it would have been a lot better if Constance had her own POV, because we also didn't get to know that much about her besides like her kind of showing and not telling that like I'm the daughter of the stepsisters.
Spoilers!
Oh,
Are we in spoilers now?
oops. Oh well, I think everyone that's here has read it.
Yeah, we're
Should we-
cool with it. I think that's
But like for people who, if they,
Yeah.
someone watches this later,
I think
do
this
we go
is
into
what
spoilers
you
now?
were talking about, Trey.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Or this one as well.
But I feel like Constance was
People-
just like a very typical side character. Why
Yeah.
I don't feel like I don't feel like she was like more or less on the page where she
Felt
would
very
usually be in
one-dimensional.
another. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. But like, of course, you can think it. But I just mean that I sounded like really like going down on you. But I feel like we got to know a lot about her, like her backstory and how she was trained, and like what stories she had been bringing for like, I don't know, 200 years in Cinderella from her family, and like that she could fight with knives. It was just like, it was not more or less than like what usually a love interest / side character would have in another book. So
Yeah.
I felt like she was fine, even though yes, I do wish that they had like shown more of her path, like when she talked about it,
Yeah.
than just like, oh, here is one page of her whole life story. Like I do wish more of that,
Mhm.
but that is again towards the writing, but maybe not towards her character. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
No,
I would
quite
love
like-
a novella from Constance's perspective. I think that would be awesome to see like before everything, like how she was surviving.
Oh, that would be cool, like a prequel, maybe.
Yeah, kind of like a prequel novella from Constance's perspective. 'cause I
Yeah,
think
yeah, that would be cool.
Also,
Yeah.
there were a lot of other fairy tales mentioned in here that seemed like original ideas. So maybe there will be more, like in the world, maybe,
Yeah.
possibly.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like, well, because on Goodreads it says it's a standalone, and I
Yeah.
followed the author, and she hasn't mentioned writing
Mhm.
anymore in the world, so I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? I hope so.
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
this is sorry.
I quite liked Constance. I think my frustration, and this is the writing, not the character,
Mhm.
is I felt like there was so much effort being put in to make her the opposite of Sophia, to like
yeah.
show, like the different perspectives, that you then lost Constance a bit as her own character as she was there functioning as like a comparison point, which frustrated me because I agree. I think, ooh, dropping my headphones. I thought she was a pretty good character and I quite liked her. But yeah, I think that was my frustration, that they were trying so hard to use her as a comparison that she didn't necessarily get to be her own character. But that's relatively common in YA stereotypes anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wish we had seen more, because especially when she was talking about like her backstory of being trained and stuff, we didn't ever really see her like put that into effect. And she like trained Sophia a little bit with the knife, but then she was like, oh, I have like this whole history of generations of our mothers like teaching us how to use combat and how to protect ourselves. But then we don't ever really get to see it. So I think that was just one of my issues of like, I don't know, I felt like it was underdeveloped, but that's just me personally.
Also, I've seen this in the comments a lot and I could not agree more. Luke, I loved Luke.
I love Luke.
So much. And we lost him so early on. I was so sad. I wanted.
I actually
so much
thought
more
he
of
was gonna
Luke.
go out with Sophia, like
I
when they were gonna
did.
travel. But then no.
I loved him so much. He meant so well.
Okay.
I'm so sad.
Wait, since we're in spoilers now, I don't remember. Did Luke die or not?
No.
No,
No.
he didn't die.
Okay,
He was
okay.
severely
It's
malnourished.
written out very early.
Okay.
But yeah.
Talking about Luke. Okay, this goes into a new discussion.
Okay.
One of my biggest issues with the book was like, in this society, there are queer people, but it's very rare for them to be like found. It's like they're among us, but we don't know who they are. And then every single one of our characters is queer, besides like the prince and the fairy godmother.
Mhm.
So that was something that felt like very unrealistic to me. Of like, we don't know, like we know they're out there in the city, and like there's a group of us, but they're also like very secretive and can't like show who they are. But then it was like every single person we encountered was like, I'm gay, or like I'm gay too.
I think
I don't know,
Maybe
I had
that's
an
just
issue.
why-
realistic though, because if you think about just in like general friend groups, often if one person you get a hint that they might be queer, then a lot of other people start like being like feeling situation out, and quite quickly you
Yeah.
realize, oh look, we all are, because
Yeah.
like, you felt
Yeah,
the confidence from other people. And I felt that especially with like Sophia and Luke right at the beginning, like he just made some level of hint towards it, and so she did as well, and then they realized pretty quickly. So I feel like
Yeah.
by following a queer character, it's relatively likely that they would kind of find others.
Find each other.
But-
Kind of.
But
Yeah.
also, there's like you said that like all the characters are queer, but there's like not that many characters. So like
That's true. That's why
it's
I thought
like if
unrealistic
it was
to
a
me,
bigger
like,
cast, then maybe less people would be
Yeah.
queer. But like now we literally had only Sophia, Luke, and then Erin, and then Constance, and
Yeah.
then like that's it basically.
Yeah.
Or like the friend Livia, but she died. So
No, I
Sorry.
like all the characters were queer, to be fair, but
I did do.
I can see why, you know, in a society where it's so frowned upon, it could feel
yeah.
not contrived, because it's not, and I think it is realistic that they would all find each other. But yeah, like literally what Tyner's saying, there's a whole meme about
Oh,
like,
yeah.
friendship groups just realizing
Yeah.
about all the queer kids. It literally just happens.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, you're gay. I'm gay."
Yeah. But I love
Well,
that. I love when they're all trying to like, especially the stuff between Sophia and Luke, when they were like trying to feel out who was going to admit it first. I was like,
Yeah.
come on, someone, you're both safe. Come on.
Well, that's why I feel like this book is like, I feel like I'm definitely not the demographic for this book.
Mm.
I feel like if I was 15 when I read this would have been like 5 stars, amazing. Because it does such a great job of like normalizing queer people and showing that like they're just in everyday society just like everyone else, and they're not like some evil like people that need to be oppressed or like looked down upon. And it has like, I think most of the characters are POC, right? Luke is, Sophia, Erin.
The witches.
Yeah, so like,
Cinderella, no, Cinderella. I
think-
guess.
I think
Constance
it-
was like redhead, but I don't know. Like
Yeah.
yeah, but I just think it has really good representation. And I think it's a really solid book. And if I had read it, like, because I never had something like this when I was like 15, like it was mostly like Hunger Games, you know, all those just very whitewashed books that were out, which were like fine when we were there. But like now with how much representation we have, I think for kids growing up, this is like such a good book that if I had like had this when I was 15, it would have been like 5 stars. I would have stand it all over Twitter and been like, I'm obsessed.
I would have been a stan.
Yeah, but I think now just because I'm like 21 and I've read so much YA that it feels a little bit like cliche a little bit. But I do think it like it has really good representation, and it's an important book.
Yeah. No, I feel
Yeah.
like it was
That's what I
really,
would
it would
say.
be really, really good for like the younger end of YA, especially.
Like
As we said, like with the more simplistic writing,
Yeah.
like it's really accessible for anyone to read and get
Mhm.
through, which I think is good because it covers a lot of important things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love
especially
the subtle- I'm sorry. Yeah.
no. I was just gonna say that it's especially important that like the young people now can get this book.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't have it, and they can have it, and that's like
Mhm.
what makes me really happy that it exists.
And I love the Black representation in this as well, because I loved how it was talked about, especially like when you mentioned the witch. First of all, well, since the author's Black, I assumed it would be good, you know.
Yeah.
But like there wasn't no like, ooh, you know, like tree bark, dark chocolate skin, you know, it wasn't anything creepy or weird
Yeah.
like that, which was great. But there was like subtleness. Like there was a part where Sophia was talking about like her mother, and she was like, yeah, my mom used to like braid my hair, and she would put like these little like glass baubles in, which I immediately remembered what's what my mom used to do, but except they were glass bubbles. They're like those little barrettes you would get at like the dollar store, and they're all like sunflower flowers, you know. And I was like, relatability. Like it was so good. I feel like just little, like, again, little 15-year-old me would have been a stan. Like it was,
yeah.
Well, that's because we see like on Twitter all the time that like people get mad or like frustrated with books like these because they're pretty much like the same format and like books that we've already had, but all those books are extremely whitewashed. So then they just like, they call books like this like pretty basic and cliche. But it's really important that the same stories that have been told are like retold, but with new perspectives, especially especially for like young Black girls who can read this. They can see themselves versus having to read like Sarah J. Maas and they don't see themselves at all. So
and also really and even people who like other than young Black girls, so that they can see this being normalized, because it makes it 10 times worse when you only ever see yourself, because then you believe yourself to be the center of things, which has been that way for way too long.
I definitely needed.
No, I was just gonna say, can I talk about the plot now?
Yes.
It's like totally changing the theme, but because I've been waiting, because I did like, as I said, the concept, and like maybe the writing was simple, but I could like ignore it. But the plot annoyed me, and like one of the most important thing that when I read a book is the plot, and I did really like them going to take down the patriarchy. I can't say that word. You're saying complicated words today. But there was just some parts of the plot that was just too convenient, which is why it falls a bit into like, I wish it was a bit more complex, because then I would probably enjoy it much more. So like when you mentioned earlier, like when she goes into the village to visit Eren and they're all like, no, don't go. And then she goes anyway. And I was just like, oh my God, she's going to be captured. Everything is going to go to hell, but then everything will be okay. But then she just goes into the village and she goes out again like it was nothing, and I was just like, what? How? That doesn't make any sense. Like everyone is hunting her, and like they were just talking about how they couldn't be in the village and everything, and I felt like that was like really weird that she didn't get caught, but at the same time I'm glad she didn't get caught, because then it would be very like typical. And also like when they I think they resurrect Cinderella or something, and then they say that she had like this little book she wrote something in, and then they say they're going to look for that book. And then when she's captured later in the book, she breaks out of their prison cell, and then she literally walks into Cinderella's room, and she just finds a drawer, and then the book is there, and I was just like, no, you can't. That's not. I think so. That was a bit. So that was just some examples of how like I felt it was a bit frustrating, because it was way too convenient, just like how things sold themselves, and especially also in the end, like how they defeated the king. You could defeat the king by killing his mother, and then the mother was just there, and then they just stabbed her, and then they won. And I was just like, so after all that, that was it. So that was kind of a bit like anticlimactic. But that was sounded really negative. But there was just so small frustrations that
I thought it was a little, like unrealistic if they mentioned like how crazy King Manfred was going, that like he couldn't find Sophia, and like they were looking all over the city for her. But then it was like, I felt like they had like no guards anywhere in the whole city, and they were just like walking around freely, like doing what they wanted. And so that's why I felt like it was a little unrealistic of like, this is such an oppressive society, but then we didn't really like see any guards anywhere, or like, I mean, we did a little bit, but like I felt like there would be a lot more protection and security in the city, especially after Sophia had escaped, when they were like, this is such a big deal. But then like frequently Sophia just goes back into the town, like back out again.
I think
and,
like at least like maybe she didn't need to get captured, but you could at least like bat some guards and be like, oh shit, and then maybe have to hide. But she literally just whipped in and out.
And they mentioned how like it was like more guarded on the other side that goes like to the towns, but like the one by the woods wasn't really guarded that much. But still, like when our characters go there, there's only like 2 guards just standing there like chilling. And, like that's it. And
they're just like, what's up?
I think the biggest plot thing for me, and this may have just been me, and it may be a case of I've read so much YA that I'm just too familiar with it. But am I the only one that knew that King Manfred was the same person the whole way through, literally from the beginning, and that he was sucking the life out of people? Like literally, I had that pegged for about page 30.
No, like
I was like, okay, so that's the same guy who's been there the whole time. And so then when it was revealed, I was like, and that may just because I've read way too much YA, and so I see these things coming. But I just, I felt like it was.
I don't know.
I didn't pick up on that either.
I felt like when it happened, I was just like, oh, it makes sense. But maybe you picked it up because the author had a bit of foreshadowing, and that is kind of good, because if it's like the kind of plot twist where they don't have any foreshadowing, you feel like it's not deserved. But now I felt like it made sense. Oh, there's another thing. I remember, like, everyone said that you don't go into the forest unless, like, you're really desperate. Like, when they were going to go to get the witch, they had to, like, go to the forest for several days, and everyone was just like, you don't go there unless you're desperate. You don't go there because it's dangerous. But then nothing happened in the forest either. They just met some wolves, like, once. And I was just like, why was it so bad to go into the forest if nothing happened? So, yeah.
I was wondering if it was, like, just because the fairy godmother lives there, so it was, like, a myth that, like, King Manfred spread to, like, don't go in there because that's where his mom lives, so, like, nobody finds her.
But no one knew that it was his mom.
True.
So everyone just thought that maybe she had gone into the forest.
Yeah. I think it was, like, a case of, like, the, like, kind of, like, legend of, like, this forest is so bad, like, it was just over-exaggerated to the point.
Yeah,
okay. Like, oh, it's just a little creepy. All right. Like, there's some wolves. Okay, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A case of over-exaggeration.
Yeah. No.
But yeah.
I feel like it's just one of those unfortunate ones where, for whatever reason, I picked it up too early. It's like, I don't know if any of you have read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Everyone always talks about how amazing the twist was. And I picked it up right at the beginning, and therefore the book, it doesn't become redundant, but there's this level of enjoyment you lose when there's these, like, huge reveals, and you're sitting there like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
RJ said rip random horse. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Kinda
said that they just found a tomb, but people have forgotten it existed.
Yeah.
But then there was like,
things.
but they said there was just like loads of like note things there, so people had been going there, but everyone knew it didn't exist anymore. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought everything was kind of convenient, but also just as much as every other YA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
I feel like a lot of critiques are like, well, it's just like I feel like this book is a very YA book, and if you kind of like go into it knowing like it's not going to revolutionize the genre.
Oh yeah.
You know, like very much cliche by the book kind of things. Then
yeah, I think I agree with that completely. It's just like a lot of these are very typical YA things, but I think because it had typical YA plot, typical YA characters, and relatively simplistic writing, I feel like not all at all, but some YA have like maybe one of those, which is slightly more than average. That with the three kind of we've lost Trey. The three being like
yeah,
I mean,
that was weird.
Like your typical YA, it could sort of. I guess the three combined for me was the problem. I feel like if it had just had like slightly stronger characters or like a slightly more detailed plot, my enjoyment would have gone up like tons. But nothing like, quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I think it's a really good book for like what it does and for like the demographic and the age range. Like this is a pretty solid book for that. Just like me, it didn't connect with me, but that doesn't mean it's not like good.
Exactly.
Even though like I had like a billion examples of like inconvenience here, that was just because I wanted to have like example for what I was saying instead of just saying it like without having grounds for it. But like I did overall just enjoy it because I just thought like, yes, it's typical YA, but I read YA for a reason because I love all these typical things. But like it also sometimes can get in way a bit of the enjoyment. But like I overall just enjoy like the themes and like just like fighting together and going on a journey to take down the king. Like I love that. So like it's not like I didn't enjoy it at all. I just sounded so negative, so I felt like I had to redeem myself.
I think like the thing that was the most unrealistic for me was when she like the whole plan was just to go into the castle and stab him. Like it just seemed very like underdeveloped plan because they spent like so much time like day and night trying to figure out this plan of how it was going to all work out. But the plan was that they just like go up and stab him, and then he's been there for like generations and generations, and they know that he's like the same person. He's like clearly some evil entity, like a demon or something. Like he's not a normal person. But they thought like going up and just stabbing him would work. So I don't know if that was like more of like the fairy godmother was like trying to deceive them because she was kind of like in league with King Manfred. I don't know. It just seemed very like off. I don't know. I was just like very surprised that was the plan that they went with to just like.
I thought I'd missed the plan. I thought when they were going to the castle, I was like, oh, did I miss it? Oh, okay. And then, it was just the plan. But then again, I feel that's quite realistic for like 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
Like I would have done the
confidence,
exact
it'll
same
work
thing.
out. That's teenagers.
I don't know if you read the Wrath of the Dawn, and if you. By
No.
Renee Ahdieh. Yeah, it was like one of the biggest YA, and her plan is to go and kill the king because he kills one every night after he marries them, because
Yeah.
it's based on the 1001 Nights, and her plan is literally to get married to him and then stab him. And I was just like, okay, that was her plan. So
Yeah,
it was just, it's like the same.
I feel like that's fine for like a normal, like everyday plan. Like if it's like not fantasy, but when it's fantasy and they like clearly have special abilities, I don't think like stabbing them is going to work.
Yeah. I think it was like they couldn't think of anything else, so they were like,
Yeah.
all they could think about is stabbing him, like because they couldn't know if he would survive. Like he didn't know like much more else, and it seems like how they were talking about is that they were only good at knife stuff.
Yeah.
So they were like, so you're like, well, I don't have any other option. I can't do anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. So I guess
If you
I'll
are
stab
sure,
and
just stab
stab
it.
But
yeah,
it wasn't even like this is an enchanted knife that like is going to use to like take back all the life force that he took from people. It was just
It
like
was,
here's just a
though.
random. It was.
Yeah.
I think it was, I think it was a magic knife.
Which the witch/fairy godmother, and that's why she gave it to her at the end. She turned basically good at the end by giving that to Sophia.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they didn't give that to her till the end.
Yeah.
Like they already went into the castle.
Oh,
Jay
it's like
is like, what?
With like the pink stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how was it magical? What did it do?
I can't remember, but it was magical. That's why it worked when she stabbed his like life force thing at the end. I don't know, but yeah, no, there was a.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused about the end of the book because it felt very rushed to me.
Yeah, I agree with
But okay, so like she's battling King Manfred, right? And then he starts sucking the life force out of her, and then Constance just like pulls her away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the fairy godmother comes in, and then it's like the twist of like, have I been working with him all along?
Yeah.
But then she stabs herself, right?
Constance stabs her.
Constance stabs her.
Oh, but the fairy godmother like lets her.
Yes. Her kind of, yeah.
I thought
because like because she had the flashback earlier, knowing she was going to die. But I'm assuming how it seemed is that she knew that was going to happen, which is why she showed up and she was okay with her fate of like, oh, I'm just going to die in battle, so I'm going to show up and just make it easy for them. And so she knew it was going to happen, so she was just kind of living off her destiny, living her fate.
Yeah.
I was so confused if she was good or bad the whole time. Like even at the end, I was just so confused.
I got she felt bad, or she was bad, but she felt remorse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they just managed to stab her. I didn't know that she turned.
I actually agree. I was confused on this because I think when Constance stabbed the fairy godmother, I think at that point the fairy godmother was actually trying to give the knife to Cinderella, but Sophia, but Constance thought she was trying to attack her and so killed the fairy godmother, but I'm not sure. That's how I read it.
I thought they could kill. I thought they managed to kill like King because like the fairy godmother wasn't magical, so you could just stab her like normally, and then that was how she died. Which is why I thought it was so convenient she was there, because why are you there? Because then you get stabbed, kinda. I didn't know she turned like nice. Now I'm so confused.
I don't know if she did. I think it was
Does anyone know?
Comments. With destiny she'd already seen.
Yeah, she didn't turn nice. It was more like she like regretted that she let her son do all the terrible things he did. So she was kind of like, well, I let him hurt all these people, kill all these people. Like, so the least I could do is get rid of him by killing me, pretty much.
Yeah.
But sorry, changing the subject a bit, is that RJ wrote, I loved how the original fairy tale was deconstructed, and I really love that too. I loved how we like thought a certain thing about the fairy tale, and then like we found out the truth, and that was probably like my favorite part. I was just like so invested then, and I thought it was really interesting. So
I agree with that. I thought it was really interesting.
I thought it was good. I think it's more like I talked about it in my video when I made about the book, but it's like people say it was like a retelling. It's more like a remix, kind of like where you get the story of Cinderella and it just kind of completely turns it around.
Yeah, and I love like the idea that we hear a story that we think is true so many times, but like that's not true. So you can just see a society building itself upon a thing that's a lie, and it's just very interesting going into like what you do when the thing you believe all your life is a lie. So I like that concept a lot, like in general.
Yeah,
books.
it was really interesting as well watching Sophia grapple with that, because she didn't necessarily believe the story. Like, she wasn't someone who lived by it and all of this at the beginning. So she clearly had that hint of doubt. But then when it was revealed how wrong it was, she still couldn't fathom it, which just shows that even if you like think you're against what you've always been told, there will be a level of it which probably has seeped in and stuck. So it can still be really jarring when you are like properly told that it's not true at all.
Yeah, exactly. Any last thought?
Okay, I want to talk about another thing that seems super convenient for me, and I want to know if you all agree or if like you don't agree. But when she was like thrown in the cell where all the other girls were kept, and everyone was like, "You're gonna be stuck here forever. Like, just give up." And then she like finds a way to get out just like randomly, and there's like no guards posted there, and then that's how she like escapes up into Cinderella's room. It just seemed like so convenient, and especially after King Manfred had like caught her, there was no guards anywhere, like not even on the outside doors of the cell, and then
that's
outside
the to me of YA fantasy. They always escape the dungeons so easily.
But I thought maybe that's because like they thought it was secure in there, and then also because they underestimated the girls so much.
Yeah,
they didn't think they could do anything. So that kind of makes sense. And also they had the ball going, like the event ball thing, so like all the guards was there. So that maybe it's like a bit like that. But yeah, I agree it was a bit convenient that like when she was gonna break out the other girl, her like lockpicks broke, so they had to be stuck there, and then she went away. So that I thought was like okay, but like yeah,
I think Manfred was like so cocky that he was like, "Oh, she's not gonna get me." That he completely was like, "I'm not gonna put guard nowhere because like she is not on my level." That's what he was thinking.
Because this dumb hoe is not on my level.
Yeah, he was like, "Nah, she's not that great." And then
but you have to think that he was like 200 years old and she was literally 16. I would also think that a 16-year-old couldn't break out of a jail cell. I would be like, yeah, you're stuck there.
Because 16-year-olds wouldn't be able to break out of a jail cell.
Except when they're parents in a YA fantasy.
Yeah, I feel like that was the point. I don't feel like the point was I feel like the point of the book was to be convenient and to be like nice.
Yeah.
Well, well, it wasn't nicely wrapped up because at the end I did like in the epilogue. I guess we can talk about the epilogue.
Yeah, I thought the epilogue was really good.
I liked how it
happened in the epilogue.
Wrapped
Say
up.
what happened in the epilogue.
Well, pretty much it talked about how like they made Constance I guess like the ruler, but they didn't like, but there was a resistance group that like wasn't okay with like changing up the status quo, and they were talking about like, oh, we're still dealing with that, and people still of course need to realize that the Cinderella story was not like real. So I liked how it wasn't like a nice wrapped up ending. I liked how it was like, we're still working on it. The society now isn't magically better. Like we're working.
Yeah. I like that. I also like the and where like we get the rewritten fairy tale, like where they changed it. And then like the last thing is like, do not be silent, raise your voice, be a light in the dark. I like that. That was a good last sentence. I feel like that was like stuck to your, what's it called? Quote stuck to your pro. I don't know. I can really not speak today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm really sorry.
The one other scene I want to talk about, because I wonder whether I read this wrong, because it doesn't in any way fit with the message of the book, I didn't feel like. But when Sophia went back to visit Erin, and Erin in effect rejected her again, but obviously because of the situation she was in no position to run away. She's a victim of abuse. She's very stuck. It felt to me that Sophia then runs back to Constance and basically bitches about the fact that Erin rejected her. And to me, that sat really badly. That like, yes, Sophia is rebelling against the society, and that's phenomenal. But she also has to accept that not everyone is in a position to do that. Like Erin is not in a position to rebel and run away. She's in an awful situation. And yet it felt like Sophia was just like kind of just hurt that she hadn't got her way. And I was like, I don't know whether I just missed the point of that scene, but to me it felt like she was blaming Erin for being stuck in this society, which is in no way Erin's fault. I don't know.
I think I don't know. Like, I'm trying to. From what I read about it, I read it as kind of like that she was just upset that it seemed like, at least to her, that she wasn't willing to leave her bad situation, but she didn't understand that it wasn't as easy for her. And I feel like she learned it a bit towards the end of the book, but it seemed like something that she just needed to learn, that like not everybody is able to leave as easily as we were.
Yeah, I guess just in the moment of that scene, it's sort of like brushing it the wrong way, because it felt like she was really saying like, oh, she didn't choose to leave because she doesn't care about me. And I was just there like, that's not why. That's no, do not blame the victim, please. But oh my god, I keep getting my headphones caught.
I also thought it was realistic because like she was talking about how she doesn't want to like dishonor her parents and like bring disrespect to them and have like society look down on her for basically being was she queer or was she not? Erin.
It seemed like she had like a little inkling, but she like to me it seemed like she could be like bi, but she's like doesn't accept it. Kind of thing, where she was kind of like, I guess, like internalized homophobia.
Well, that's why I think
that's probably because it was not allowed.
They said that Erin and Sphere had been together for 3 years, though. It literally said they'd been like together for 3 years. So I think she was definitely queer. She just went with society instead of rebelling.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a good example of like society tells me no, so I'm gonna not do it.
Yeah, it's like,
but it also
kind of
shows
like the people who like force themselves into the closet. Yeah, they're scared.
So I think that perspective could be really helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, I just wish that had been...
when I was like 15, I was like, that's not okay. Like, I can't be doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but that's why I think that scene, as I said, bothered me, because it felt like Erin was being blamed for all of that.
Yeah,
whereas
it's definitely
so
portrayed,
many people are in a difficult situation and can't come out or can't rebel or whatever.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people don't have like the courage in like an oppressed society. Like a lot of people are just broken down and like don't have any energy.
True.
And that's especially relevant to like today's society.
Yeah, it shows how a lot of that.
Relevant. Yeah.
Also, like, that's great why we have people like Sophia to do all the work for us. Thank you. Because I will be home crying. But yeah, I also think like it was like this weird relationship with her father, because her father, like, she was like, oh, but my father is one of the nice guys, but then he's literally like, oh, we need to disown you now in the next scene, and then the next scene he was like crying over her. So I felt like he was very inconsistent, but he also was there for like 3 scenes, so I don't know how important it was, but I was just confused by him because suddenly he was nice, then he was an asshole, and then it was almost and nice. I don't know, it was weird.
I don't know. But I felt like he was realistic in the terms of like, at least I can not to my own experience, but like I've seen this happen. I guess I have like little inklings that's kind of like a lot how fathers are, of kind of like, especially if like you like love your kid and you want the best for them, but also they're kind of like not like an enemy of the state, but they are. Sophia was an enemy of the state pretty much. And kind of like, I don't want to hurt you, but I'm also not willing to jeopardize myself and my wife. And so it's kind of like who am I going to pick, my daughter or me and my wife kind of thing. And he chose him and his wife. And so he was hurt that, of course, like, why couldn't Sophia just like hide that part of her and just get married to a man and like we wouldn't have to deal with all that. So it just felt like he was going through a lot of like complex emotions that he was trying to work out.
There's also a very realistic like portrayal of, especially like in our society, a lot of like parents still love their kids, but they don't agree with like that at all. So it's like, we don't accept that and we can't be a part of that, but like we still love you, which is like messed up, but it's
I love that we found no what
and so there's also some situations where the parents are supportive, but they're just so scared for their child, for what that is going to mean for them, that like it makes it really difficult to be openly supportive, because they would almost feel like by supporting that they're putting their child at risk, which obviously no one would want to do. And that may not be correct, but if that is how you feel, you can understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
I love how we found like so many like things that was realistic when discussing it, like that I didn't think about earlier. It was really interesting.
Okay, I think the last scene that we can discuss, I think this is like the last one we haven't talked.
Just chipping in, please enter the giveaway, guys. You've got 2 entries. Please, it's in the description.
Do we have the links in the description?
Yes.
Sorry, just chipping in with that because you've only got 2 entries.
Okay. The public execution scene
Oh,
seemed a little off to me because it was like over like so quick, and then it was like all of a sudden she was a rebel and she was like death to the king basically, and then like after that it was just like quiet again. But I guess it mentioned that like there was some rebellions from that, but then again we never got shown the rebellions. So I don't know. I liked the book, but there were a lot of things that it was just like I wish we saw more of. That's my overall thought. I just wish we had been given more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also, looking at the sorry,
So
no, I was just gonna say that looking at the comments, Tanya said that like every girl in the kingdom must attend the ball, and that like that is not realistic because how many people can fit in a castle, and poor people, how far do they have to travel? Does everyone from the whole country come to the capital, or is it like several balls, different places? Yeah, so that's what they talked about in the chat, and I think that is an interesting question to answer. Like every single girl, like there are definitely poor people here. So if you were poor, you were like literally became a servant at once because then you were not chosen. But like then like there's always more poor people than there are rich people. So how is that working out for them?
Well,
or like
I guess
how far do they have to
the
travel?
Well, I guess some of the men especially would be like so based on looks that they wouldn't really care about someone's status. It's just because I mean the women are objects for them, so their status doesn't really matter. So I guess you could maybe get away with it. But I mean they showed that with Liv who didn't have the finery to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Done.
But what about people who live far away? Like, do they all travel there? How do they all fit there? How many people live there? I don't know.
I mean, I got the kind of, I guess, vibe that it's like a small country. It's not huge. Like, it's kind of like, I got the vibe that it's small and there's not a huge population. Why it's easy to do this, but it's only women from a certain age.
Yeah, so that's true.
You kind of think about like maybe 1% of the women, or maybe 1 to 5% of the female population is able to go. And if it's a small country, that can't be like that many people. And it's the castle. The castles are usually huge. They can usually hold like 10,000 people and stuff like that. So
so you have brain cells.
But it's those 3 years minus the people that have already been chosen as well.
True.
People chosen quickly. Like I agree. There was a. But that's why.
Yeah, like it is logical, but like also like it's just a question to like have in mind. But like, but
it's interesting.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of like this book where it's like if anything, like if we talk about any things of like what you guys thought would be changed, I feel like I wouldn't like the book. At least, like, if it was multiple perspectives, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. If it explained the world more, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's perfect as it is, and if it changed anything, I probably wouldn't have given it 5 stars.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like the demographic was for me, and if like I had read this when I was younger, it would have been amazing. But like,
I think
it's just not for me.
I don't think like it needed, for example, more perspectives. I think it was fine with just following Sophia. But it just, I think like the writing just should have been a bit more complex to like. But like I didn't need that. Like, of course, Trey is
That's
allowed
just a
to want
personal
it.
thing. I always prefer POVs than one.
Yeah.
Like,
I love
the only thing I would have
POVs.
liked. I was gonna say the only thing I would have liked change would be like getting into the issues like the patriarchy and all of that, just like a tiny bit more in depth. Partially because, especially if this is maybe for younger teens, this may be their first sort of encounter with things like this. So I guess if you can explain it in that bit more detail, it's just beneficial. But at the same time, they can go and look it up for themselves if they want to. It's a good introductory point for a lot of people.
I think it does give like a really good beginner's insight into like some of the issues in today's society, though, especially if you're like 14, 15 reading this.
Yeah,
you can definitely pick up on, some of this is what's happening in the real world.
If someone like was gonna be like, oh, I want to get into reading, etc., I want to read fantasy, I would definitely recommend this if they haven't read like a lot before, because it's perfect. It's easy to read, and like it's not like super complex and hard like Brandon Sanderson fantasy where you're like, what the fuck is going on? So like it's perfect to recommend to people who is interested in more books, and it's like super diverse and nice in that way and like fun. So like it's a really good book to recommend for certain people.
Yeah, totally.
I agree with that.
Also,
right.
Also, like I am really curious if we read more YA fantasy of how like the tropes and cliches we just talked about, if they will be like as present later, and see what we feel about them then, like comparing it to now.
Oh yeah.
Because this is our first YA. Oh wait, the next one is YA too. So that would be interesting to see. Yeah.
Okay, so question. Will y'all be reading more books by this author if they come out with
Yes.
I think
For
so,
sure.
especially because
I
they're a
would-
debut. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it'll
I
totally
think I would too.
get better.
Especially if she wrote something that was like more adult. I think it would
I would
really-
try
I think
it. I would try it. I would see if I vibe more with the writing style.
Mm.
If it was written simplistic like this again, I possibly wouldn't, just because it's not the kind of writing style I tend to get on with. But I definitely give it a go and see.
I really like a lot of middle grades. I'm kind of like used to like a bit. I call it lower YA, but like in age group. So like I don't mind like the convenience. Like I think about it, but like I can ignore it because I know that like that is the story they want to tell. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. Mm.
Well, that's why I was confused because it kind of read like middle grade, but I know that it's not. But but I've read like some other YAs that seem more like adulty.
Yeah.
Maybe like the
know.
writing feels middle grade, but like I
Yeah.
guess the plot with like
the story.
women having sucked out their souls and
Yeah.
other shit is like and like abuse like
And the public decapitation.
yeah that probably makes it
That's not very
not
why
middle grade.
there.
Like 12 like 10-year-old just reading about that. Oh my
Like,
god.
oh.
Yeah, I think I
I
tend to
mean-
read older YA, so it just yeah, but it's not for me. I'm 22. It's not written for me.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
Shall we do?
Any others?
Should we talk about the recent book that we've read?
Do we have time? It's been 1 hour.
It has been an hour. Should we do
Yeah.
the giveaway quickly for people who need to go? There's still only
Yeah.
the 2 entries, so I'm just gonna random number generate between the 2.
Should
Oh,
we
I
do
can
like
answer. That's
a-
fine.
Should we do like a
I'll
final?
put myself and buy myself a book. No.
So the winner is Maya Fraser. So I've got her email
Yay.
address, which I'll send over to Cecilia, or we'll just, if you're on the Discord, we'll just contact you on
Yes.
there or something.
I will contact
We will
you.
find a way to contact you. But yay, congrats.
Maya Fraser literally said, Maddie, who won the
I
giveaway.
know. I know.
It's you.
It is you.
I love it.
Right. Do you
Yeah.
want to quickly do LGBT we have loved recently, or do we want to just call it? 'Cause it's been an hour. What do people think?
See, what do
If
y'all
we're quick, we can
I
do
mean,
it
I don't
now.
have anywhere to go, but if y'all want to.
We can go quick, not too long. But yeah.
Yeah, should we do a quick version?
Okay.
Okay.
Who wants to start?
I can.
Okay, Maddie first.
I literally just talked about this in the Discord. Camp by Elsie Rosen. Very quick synopsis. This follows a boy who goes to a LGBTQ plus summer camp every year, which, oh my god, I want an LGBTQ plus summer camp. Sounds amazing. And he's really into musical theatre, and he's quite sort of camp and effeminate. But then he falls in love with a
So
guy.
he's you. Sorry.
Pretty
Because
much.
musical- Yeah. Sorry. yeah.
But he falls in love with a guy and completely changes himself to get this guy. So gets into sports and goes really mask. And it's interesting because he's basically manipulating this guy, but also you want to root for him. And all his friends both root for him and kind of hate what he's doing. And it talks about so many queer issues and so much and just interesting. Really good and cute as fuck because, yeah.
I feel like Maddie would be a great like summer camp counselor for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just see
I'm
it.
going to start an LGBTQ plus musical theatre summer camp if I'm not careful. Like, the desire is strong.
Facing gay summer camp. Let's go.
Amazing Gay Summer Camp. Let's
Please.
go.
Another
Yes.
musical theatre program I'm in.
We can all like have one program each. She just musical theater. I could do like I don't know, reading. That's the only thing I like.
You can have gaming.
Maybe
That'd be awesome.
the train needs to do the gaming. Yeah.
Right. Does anyone
Okay.
else have one?
All right, your turn, Sandra.
Oh, okay. So I read Darius the Great Deserves Better. This is the sequel to Darius the Great Is Not Okay. Darius the Great Is Not Okay is like one of my favorite books of all time. But when I read it at the time, I didn't think about it as queer, which maybe sounds a bit stupid, but just because people said it was questioning, but I was just like, is he? Because there wasn't like any defined thing on page. But here it's just like all gay, like he's all out. And I was just like, okay, I'm ready. But yeah, the first book is about Darius, whose grandfather is sick, so they go to Iran. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they go to Iran, and they basically he has like always felt like he's not, white enough or Farsi enough. Is that what you say? No.
Mhm.
I forgot the words. Yeah, and then like he doesn't speak the language, and they also have like this really unstable relationship with his father, and he also has depression. So he has a lot of things to deal with, and it's just like his family thing focused a lot about his inner thoughts and feelings, and just I cried so much the first book, and the second book was just as good, and I don't understand how he can write so well, and it's like one of my favorite books ever. So really recommend a lot.
I really want to read the first one. I keep meaning to. I've got it.
Yeah. It's so good. I cried, and it's just like the relationship exploration, and like, yeah, so much goodness. Yeah.
Love it.
All right, I'll go quick. I don't have a recent queer read because I've been lacking, but I have a book that I still want to recommend. It's The Beast Player and the sequel that just came out, The Beast Warrior. The
I've
covers
heard
are
such good things
beautiful.
about those.
Yeah, so this is a Japanese work that's been translated to English, and I'm almost done with the first one right now. I have like 60 pages left, but it's so good. If you like animals and you like nature, like you'll love this book. But it says a sweeping fantasy about a girl with a special power to communicate with magical beasts and about the warring kingdom only she can save. It's just really good, and it's like very lyrical and relaxing, and you're like in the Japanese countryside. I love it. I don't think there's any LGBT rep in it, but definitely read it. And there's like an anime out, and there's a manga.
False advertisement.
There's a whole thing. So
I love it. Awesome. Well, mine, I don't have the physical copy because I listened to it on audio, but The Deep by River Solomon.
Yeah.
I heard so many great things.
So good. The audiobook is really good. It's voiced by, who is that? They play
Daveed Diggs.
Daveed Diggs, who is Thomas Jefferson in Hamilton. He could read me a shampoo bottle and I would love him.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's a story that's very much set in like Black trauma. So very sensitive to that. It's the whole book. But pretty much we follow our main character, and she is pretty much like the historian. So she knows all of the history, and then everybody else in like their mermaid society doesn't. And so every year she kind of relays them to their history of like, oh, we're from pregnant women or pregnant slave women who were thrown off overboard. And it really goes into that. There's a whole a couple chapters from this one character who's non-binary, and they use they, them pronouns. And those chapters were amazing. And it really talks about the history of their species. And it's just, it's short. It's good. It was like a 4-hour audiobook. It's just.
I want to read it so much.
You really
like. Yeah, I am. Like I have it on my wish list.
I want to reread it, but listen to the audiobook because I feel like that would add even more to it. Because Daveed Diggs is phenomenal.
Yes, I highly recommend the audio, but if you can't get the audio, the physical, I assume, is good as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Anything else?
Someone wanted to recommend a book. Oh, sorry.
They've recommended Loveless, which is like good book. I agree with that, Rack.
I haven't read it yet, but I also want to read that.
I feel like it's especially appealed to me because it's a first-year university student in the UK, and it was literally my first-year university experience. And I was like, oh, okay, this is UK uni in a nutshell. It was so accurate. It was so accurate. But
yeah, Maya also wrote that they're deciding between Camp and Cemetery Boys, so they will be really happy because our next book is Cemetery Boys. So we chose for you. Now you have to read it.
But get both because Camp is also great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cemetery Boys. I cannot wait, honestly. I'm actually glad my copy has been delayed because otherwise I would have read this literally so long before the live show. It's making me wait because I can't read it yet.
I'm probably going to start reading it like soon, like next week.
See, I'm torn because I'm about to finish this one and I really want to read the sequel, but it's like 600 pages.
Why it looks so tiny? Tiny. It looks so tiny. Like it didn't look 600 pages at all. Yeah.
You could read Cemetery Boys and then read the sequel.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'll do.
So yeah, I'm just.
Never mind.
The excitement is real.
I know. Hopefully we like it. This is our first male or trans book, right?
Yeah.
This one we heard? Yes.
There was trans rap in City We Became.
Yeah, but the author is
not much. The author is a trans author.
Yeah.
And our first Latinx book as well, so that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
This has like loaded. Like I am scared I will not like it now.
I've only heard like 5-star, like 4 and 5-star ratings. It has like a 4.5 or something on Goodreads.
Yeah.
It has like 3,000 ratings, and I'm like, that's so many.
I'm scared.
Okay.
But I've been
last-
liking all the books we read, so this is gonna be the one I'm just like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
Okay, last question before we go. What is, like, because now we've read Cinderella is Dead. What is everyone's favorite book so far of the club?
Ooh,
Mine would be Cinderella is Dead.
I'd say
Although I
Cinderella.
City
didn't
became-
technically.
City we became for me.
Mine is Gideon the Knight because that was like my favorite before. So like it's still. But
Yeah,
they had a
it's-
sequel now. So
Oh, there you go.
did any of you read a sequel? The
No.
Harrow the Knight.
I don't think I'm going to.
I've heard it's even
No,
more
neither.
confusing, so.
Yeah, it is confusing, but it was so good. Yeah. So like, yeah.
I heard the sequel was more confusing, and then I was just like,
Yeah, it is. I like 250
nope, I
pages
can't do
in, and
that.
I still had no idea what's going on. But it was just, yeah.
I love that. Awesome.
right, we should probably wrap up then.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, whose channel we're going to be on?
It's
Next
mine.
time.
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's Sandra's.
Yeah, we're going to be on Sandra's channel next month. So get ready for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I never had a live show before. I don't know how to do it. Help.
We'll teach you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome. So thanks to you, everybody. I hope you guys have a great day, and we will see you next month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.